This pompous, arrogant government is saying, we know what's best and we're going to push this on to you. This is not the Australia I know. And I can tell you, Jacinta and the federal government's going to find out how opposed rural Australia is to their perspective if they keep pushing on with no transparency.
G'day everyone, welcome to the Bothy. I'm Chris.
G'day, I'm Al.
Before the AVA conference, I had the pleasure of interviewing Ross Johns.
The farmer.
Which is why we were originally going to go up there in the first place to have a chat with Ross at his farm. So we did an interview with Ross Johns, who is the chair of the Wimmera Mallee Environmental and Agricultural Protection Association. Ross is a prominent farmer in the Wimmera, of which he's been doing all his life. But a few years ago, a wind farm company came to him and asked him to sign part of his farm away to put some towers on his property. They made a whole lot of false statements, promises they couldn't keep. And when he really didn't want to sign, they started producing cash.
Yeah. Sounds like a contract with the devil.
Exactly right. Dance with the devil. All in order to hoodwink Ross into signing an agreement. But he didn't do that. And from that day forward, he's worked feverishly on making sure that there is equity, fairness, and consultation. And dare I say it,
transparency
between the multinational corporations that are trying to suck this country dry of its agricultural and arable land, the government, who doesn't seem to understand the consequences of their actions, rather just keeps handing billions of dollars over to foreign entities to the detriment of all Australians and the farmers that could fall victims to the deception and underhandedness that is being used to meet their quotas. When Barnaby Joyce said up at AVA that wind farms and solar farms, not that they're farms, are really just swindle factories, Ross knows firsthand what that means. So we'll show that interview now. What I'm going to do though, mate, up in the corner, I'm going to have a counter for the word transparency because Ross used it a lot. It was the centerpiece of his speech. So without any further ado, Ross, thanks very much for joining us, mate.
My absolute pleasure.
Tell us about what you do on your farm.
Well, we grow wheat and barley and canola and run a few sheep, grow a few lentils. But I'm really trying to retire and my son's handing over control to my son. And succession's a massive issue in agriculture. And we've just got to do it in a professional way. So, but I'm really passionate about Australia. I love Australia. I love Australian culture. And I really want Australia to do well. And what I see happening in government is very poor process, ignoring rural communities, ignoring the interests of Australia. And our government is virtually working for foreign entities and multinationals, and I do not like that.
What is the Wimmera Mallee Environmental and Agricultural Protection Association? I don't know too much about what that is, mate.
Okay, well, the organisation was formed about 18 months ago, and it was a lot of disgruntled feeling about the lack of information provided by wind developers for proposed wind farms that have been fast-tracked in the Wimmera. A group of like-minded people seeking the facts and getting independent reviews of what's actually going on, because we weren't getting any information or any accurate information out of these wind developers and or government. It was just like we were kept in the dark and fed bullshit. It was just amazing what was coming out of government. So this organisation formed and we've had meetings regularly and I think 280 members now, but we're certainly passionate about bringing about proper process for Australia. We're passionate about building a better economy for the young people and the future generations of Australia. Australians.
So what got you involved with the association? Obviously you were approached by a wind farm company, but what got you?
Well, I was first approached by the wind farm company probably back in 2018 or 19, and I said to them, you better give me a bit more information about what you're planning to do and how you're going and what you're planning to create. And they just never got back to me. So it was like, as soon as I asked them questions about their project, there was a closed door approach. And it wasn't just me, it was other people in the community that also got that treatment, and that level of lack of communication and transparency really encouraged the forming of this incorporated association. And We're really about trying to get accurate information about what the government's planning to do. And at this point, there's really not accurate or timely information available for community members.
The Wilka Energy Park. What is it? Where's it supposed to be? It hasn't kicked off yet, has it?
No, none of these, the Warrnambool Energy Park and the Wilka Energy Park haven't been finally approved. The Wilka Energy Park is between Warrnambool and Birchip.
Right.
I think it's something like 100 turbines. But equally there's a distinct lack of information, lack of transparency, lack of understanding about what exactly they're planning to do. I find it really interesting that some very commercially focused farmers have decided to jump on the government bandwagon and get the money from the rent for the turbines, and yet philosophically they'd be opposed to government wasting resources on a non-commercial industry. And yet in this particular instance, because they benefit, they're prepared to sacrifice that for personal gain. And I see this happening in corporates in Australia as well. You've got Twiggy Forrest saying, I'm going to fund these renewables to get my snout in the trough of government funding. Well, this is just appalling. This is taking money from hardworking young Australians and putting it directly into billionaires and global multinationals. And I am deadly opposed to that process. And this government redistributing wealth from those who can't afford to pay to those that have got billions is just absolutely wrong. And it's not what you'd expect from a Labor government. You'd expect from a Labor government exactly the reverse of that process.
Yeah.
So,
more socialist approach, but
well, you would think they would care about the community and they'd care about the effects on individuals, whereas what this is doing is pushing more and more money into the pockets of billionaires and multinationals, and it's just wrong.
It is. So they approached you. They tried to get you to sign up on your land and told you that your neighbours were.
Well, they said everyone signed. Just sign here. It's all fine. The whole community's in favour of it, which was absolute crap.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting about wind developers is they'll say whatever it takes to get your signature on that paper. And when once they've got the signature on the paper, they don't tell you much either.
Yeah.
So they're about commercial contracts, commercial in confidence contracts, whereas I'm totally about community consultation and transparency, which is exactly the opposite. And if the government was smart, I think they would adopt the process of community consultation and transparency as well.
Yeah.
But at this point in time, there's no inkling that government's going to be smart.
It sounded more like used car salesman from what I heard in your initial that it did about consultation and.
Well, I reflect on the gentleman that tried to get me to sign up on that contract. It was absolutely the used car salesman pitch. And I couldn't believe the lengths at which he was prepared to go to get my signature on that bit of paper. And the more he tried, the more reluctant I became. And the more questions I asked him, and he got frustrated and left.
Have you seen him since?
No, have not seen him since.
Chased him up.
Well, he was a very fast-talking, quick salesman.
So West Wind Energy, are they doing much work in your area? Are they behind these plants, yeah?
Well, they're behind the Golden Plains down in the Western District. They're behind these two projects in the Wimmera, but there's other projects. There's the Normanville project up near Kerrang, and there's another one over at Nil. The problem is that there's no openness and transparency about the number of projects, about what ultimately is planned to be done. They want to approve these projects on a project-by-project basis.
Yep.
But let's look at the whole plan. Look at how we're going to supply reliable, affordable energy for the community of Australia into the future, and not just the next 5 years, but the next 25 years, the next 50 years, the next 100 years. We need to have a strategic plan, not just an ad hoc thing that passes value directly off to multinationals and billionaires. It's just wrong.
International corporations. Stephen Nowakowski, which is a guy up in Queensland, has done something similar in Queensland. He's mapped out the whole state, which is fascinating. It'd be good if someone did that. Shell are trying to sell their portion of West Wind, I think.
I think West Wind's been for sale now for probably 12 months. So all these people that have signed contracts with West Wind, they actually don't know who's going to own these contracts. So farmers have got caveats on their land, their freehold land. And if West Wind sells to Raj from Mumbai or someone from Wuhan in China, it'll be a foreign-owned entity that'll be controlling the the caveats on their land. There's absolutely no way I'll be surrendering caveat control to someone that I don't know who it is.
Oh, why would you? It's your land.
So I think these farmers are probably taking on a level of risk that they didn't fully comprehend what they were doing. The fact that it hasn't been sold tells me that there's no real commercial market now for some of these wind developments and the uncertainty associated with them. So the more the uncertainty, the lower the value, the more community pushback and demand for community consultation and transparency, the less these commercial things are worth. I think we've got a lot more to come out in that space. If they are actually technically worthless, Westwind could be operating technically without any money whatsoever. Insolvent.
Yeah.
Then that's entirely possible.
Yep.
And some of these solar projects and fast-track renewable projects have ended up in that way.
Have you had any consultation with the government or anyone from the government that's come out and talked to them?
Well, I've tried to talk to Lily D'Ambrosio, but she put her head down and ran. I'm happy to talk to them. I'm happy to try and understand what they're trying to do, but there's no transparency communication back. I find that particularly arrogant and dictatorial. And if they're really doing the multinationals bidding, what we've sold is our Australian independence. And these politicians appear to be very quick to sell Australian interests out for personal gain or potentially multinational profits. And this is our money. This is our future. This is my country, our country. And we've got to be very defensive and support the interests of Australians. And I mean young people. You know, this young girl here is probably 18 or 19 working in this place. She'd be paying tax, and that money is getting received by the government and passed off to multinationals. That's just wrong. These young people need to be able to accumulate wealth, to buy a house, to live their life, to raise a family. And that's not what this government's about. It's all about business, commercial in confidence, misinformation. The only people providing misinformation in this whole discussion is government is not providing accurate information to the community. So that misinformation, which they keep blaming everyone else for providing, is not being open and transparent by government.
It's interesting with the SEC kicking back up and them now not being covered by freedom of information laws. The government doesn't have to release any information they want.
There's no transparency.
No.
And I look at all these, like the SEC reinvigorated. It's not the SEC that used to look after communities and interests of Australians. It's about doing the government bidding. I'm totally opposed to this. The government's got to come clean. They've got to put it on the table and we talk about the issues and come up collectively with a solution.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all I can see is war between rural Victoria, rural Australia and the cities. And that's coming.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Not just on this front. There's a whole lot of things.
Oh, no, there is.
It's coming on.
Total misunderstanding between city and country people.
Yes.
About what's practical, what's in Australia's best interests. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out in time.
Yeah. What's the biggest hurdle facing rural Australia, do you think, at the moment?
Well, I think we've got very precious governments that think that everything's served up to them they want. Whereas Australia was built on practical people that did practical things. And for example, after the bushfires in Victoria, we had a bushfire royal commission, and that bushfire royal commission recommended 5% of Victoria's bush and scrubland be cool burnt every year. And that's a practical thing to reduce the fuel load, to reduce the risk on rural communities. Since that recommendation of the bushfire royal commission was put out, 1% has been burnt. So government has completely ignored professional advice, good advice that's practical and delivers solutions, and has just not done it. This is an arrogant, self-centred government that sips coffee in Spring Street, that has no practical way of realising what it's like to live in the bush, to live in the country, to deal with the practical things, which is droughts and flooding rains and the terror of fire. They have got no idea.
You think Jacinta would? I mean, Ballarat's a home, right?
Bendigo.
Bendigo, sorry.
He lives in Bendigo.
Yeah.
Well, I think the only way that Jacinta would not understand the terror of rural Australia is if she's controlled by someone else. And I fear that our Australian governments are being controlled by foreign interests and foreign multinationals that are not in the best interest of Australians. And I think about the next generation, the people who are getting educated in Australia coming up. We've been sold down the drain, potentially to Chinese or Indian interests. What about we build and protect Australia for what it's about, which is a fair go, giving people a fair go, giving everyone an egalitarian approach to life where everyone's treated equally. This pompous, arrogant government is saying, we know what's best and we're going to push this on to you. This is not the Australia I know. And I can tell you, Jacinta and the federal government's going to find out how opposed rural Australia is to their perspective if they keep pushing on with no transparency.
Yeah. So what happens there? How do we bring the rural communities together with the cities? Because they need to support each other, right?
Well, in Australia, we're a very urbanised country. I would highly recommend people in the city to get out to the country, get out to the bush, to understand what it's like to live in highly flammable environments in bushland settings. Get out there and experience it and understand it. Because if they live in an insular bubble that's never seen these practical things, what they do is they come up with a perspective that we know how this works. Well, they've got no bloody idea whatsoever. A wildfire out of control on the worst day possible with a high fuel load is deadly and people die. What's wrong with these people coming out, driving on our absolutely crap roads in the country, in the bush, and looking at these issues and evaluating it for themselves? And I'm more than happy to drive Jacinta around. I'm more than happy to explain it to her directly. And she can make some better decisions for Australia. I'm more than happy to drive Albo around, more than happy to take a call from Albo if he wants to come out and understand what's really happening in the bush and what's happening to the valuable people that built this country. Mining and farming is 75% of our exports. None of that happens in the city. All happens in country Australia, rural Australia.
Yeah. We might try and get Chris Bowen down as well.
Oh, I'd like to talk to Chris.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter actually works for Chris Bowen.
Really? Oh, dear.
As a policy officer for the global energy transition.
Really? Oh,
in
dear.
Europe.
In Europe, right, okay.
There you go.
How does that go?
Oh, well, no, she's...
Do you have some interesting conversations with her?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always wanted my kids to be well educated. They all went to university.
Yeah.
And they're smart, independent people. But I must say, Chris Bowen, I'd love to have a chat to him and I'd love to have a meal with Chris in Canberra one day if he wanted to.
Do you think it's ideology or are they being conned? What has happened to him?
Well, I would love to have a meal and understand how he thinks and where he thinks all these billions of dollars are going to come from and where they're going to go. Ordinarily, you'd think the Labor side of politics would be protecting the working man. But in this particular instance, Chris Bowen is actually passing off this hard-earned money by workers directly to global multinationals and corporates. And I'd love to just sit down, have a meal. He can pay.
Which means we all pay.
We'll chew the fat on the future of Australia.
Yeah. Hey, keep up your great videos, mate. I love watching your little videos on Facebook. You're very entertaining. You're very passionate. I enjoy them a lot.
What the heck is really going on? Someone's got to get in the system and work for Australia, not for themselves, not for the criminals. We've got to actually start building a nation, building a better future, having a low-cost electrical system.
Well, if I were to pick it, I'd say tenacity wins the day. So you've got to be able to get up every day and just tenaciously do the same thing. Yeah. And that's the winning recipe.
Yeah.
Pauline Hanson probably has got that. She's stuck at it for 30 years and now suddenly she's popular.
Yeah.
And city voters are actually swinging over to thinking that Pauline Hanson would be the best Prime Minister in Australia. It's quite a stunning situation. I never thought that possible.
No, neither did I. Exactly right.
So tenacity and consistency wins the day.
All right. Thanks very much for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers. So we'll put up a transparency word count, mate, because he used it a lot. And that goes to the problem. How many times have we heard it from people out in rural Australia?
Yep, I know.
They just don't get told.
There is no transparency as far as they're concerned, is there?
There isn't, mate. What's it going to take for the government to understand that these people don't feel informed or listened to? It's both ways, mate. They don't get told and they don't have a voice.
There's not enough for them to care.
Exactly right.
When you feel it. If it'd been a small area in the city, there'd be thousands and thousands of people.
Correct.
They go and visit them.
Yep.
Because they're voting.
Yep.
They're votes.
Yep.
But they don't give a shit about the country people.
Exactly right, because there's not the numbers. Ross makes a really good point. A Labor government that is more concerned with pushing money into the hands of foreign nationals than the impact it has on their own people. And what he says there toward the end is what you've been saying for how long, mate?
Yep.
Yep. Who's controlling the government?
Yep.
It's just puppet masters.
They're just puppets, mate.
Yep.
Doing the bidding of some other people.
Because if Jacinta truly was a country person, where her roots are,
She would know.
She would know what it's like.
She knows they're paying.
Yep.
But she's ignoring it.
And this is the point. They're pushing to net zero for what gain? We know what the pain is.
Yeah.
We're all going to be feeling it. It's just ticker box governance. And we say ticker box way too often, probably. They achieve their goal. They hurt the vast majority of people in the process along their journey. And who knows how many of us will be around or be able to afford clean, reliable energy, the cleanest, cheapest form of energy when it arrives in 25 years' time, mate.
What happens when there's no farmers, mate?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's growing the food?
Yeah. We can't import it all. Half of us will be at war with others.
Well, it sounds like that's what they're intending to do. They're intending to do the same in Britain.
Yep.
60% of their food used to be grown in their own country. And by this rate, it'll be 40 by the end of the year.
Jesus.
The amount of food they're having to import now because they're like closing farms left, right and centre. I mean, they tried to buy Clarkson Farm.
Yeah.
And he told them to
50 million.
shove it.
Get nicked. Billionaires are really, really good at one thing.
Making money.
Making money. Exactly right.
And
being billionaires, mate.
No matter what the cost.
Yeah. Interesting to hear him talk about Twiggy.
Yeah.
Switching. They'll follow the money, mate.
Yep.
They've got a nose for it. They can smell it. They'll go where it is. Industry to industry, it doesn't matter. And for them, it's just running to paradise, mate. That's all they're doing.
Yep.
Look at Bill Gates.
Yeah, he switched.
Yep.
He was all about a net zero.
Yep.
Now he's like, maybe it's not as big a deal as we thought.
No, there's no AI in net zero, right? Yeah. Larry Fink's really interesting, the BlackRock CEO. So Larry has gone from strong, exclusive focus on rapid decarbonisation to achieve net zero to now what he refers to as energy pragmatism, right? Where the focus should be on reliability and energy security. And why would he want energy security?
AI.
AI, exactly right. That's where the investment is turning to, mate. And the billionaires are jumping off a bit of net zero, especially in America. He now views climate, in his words, as an investment risk. What does that tell you? Yes.
Oh, my God. Yeah, our country, for some reason, goes on with blinkers and they will see it in another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but by too late. The money's gone.
Yeah.
Yep. And not only have we paid the money, then we've subsidised. Just doesn't matter. It tells you everything when billionaires are saying that climate is an investment risk. Yep. That almost is the death knell of net zero. So at what point does our government wake up and realise that the billions being tipped out of the country and into the hands of China, India, and our favourite new country, Canada, that could be setting future generations up for prosperity, wealth, success, it's never coming back.
No.
That money is gone.
Never,
it is
ever.
spent. Ideology could well be the end of civilization way before climate change ever ends, mate. I really believe that. And if this rubbish keeps up, none of us will have access to the electricity that we're trying to create, let alone be able to afford it.
Yep.
It just won't be there.
This light's kept on for a while, so we'll be all right for light.
We'll be right for a good 3 or 4 hours. It's fantastic. Yeah.
After that, we're in the dark.
We're in the dark.
Well,
we're in the dark about most things.
pretty
anyway, mate.
much.
Exactly right. Let us know what you think, everybody. That interview started out heading down one path where I thought we were going to talk mainly about Ross's regional and local issues on farming, and it turned into a much more macro or global look at the problem. He's such a switched-on guy and explained it so clearly.
Yep.
It was really, really good to have a chat with him and hear his perspectives.
Yeah, I liked what I had to say. It was very good.
Right. Yep. Let us know what you think, everyone.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
See you later.